Concerts aboard ship were always popular. On a steamer, it was a custom to give at least one concert at the end of every voyage in aid of the funds the Merchant Seamen's Orphanage. The entertainers were generally picked from the complement of passengers. Crewmen were not allowed to participate on White Star Line vessels. The charge for admission was high, sometimes half a guinea, 10 shillings, 6 pence, or about $2.63 in equivalent of United States currency. But the intention was that the orphanage would benefit as much as possible. Nearly everyone was willing to participate for this cause. Many professionals who had refused to take part in other entertainments gladly came forward to give their service on these occasions. These concerts, although given in the North Atlantic route, were more popular on longer voyages, such as to Australia. The benefit concerts should not be confused with the music provided by the ship's orchestra. The orchestra was contracted by the company to perform for the pleasure of the first and second class passengers at certain times of the day. Through ships, musicians were known to partake in the charitable concerts. They were not intended to be the main attraction. Titanic's complement of musicians consisted of primarily a quintet and, in addition, a string trio for the reception room, an a la carte restaurant. Neither group played for the first-class dining saloon. The piano was for the purpose of providing music for the divine service on Sundays. These two groups, headed by violinist and orchestra leader Wallace Hartley, did not berth together. Titanic's musicians. Pictured are 7 of the 8 musicians who perished on Titanic. At center, Wallace Henry Hartley. Violinist and leader, clockwise from upper right, Percy Cornelius Taylor, cellist and pianist. W. Theodore Ronald Brayley, pianist. John Wesley Woodward, cellist. John Law Hume, violinist. Georges Alexandra Crins, violinist, and John Frederick Preston Clark, double bassist. Not pictured, Robert Marie Bricot, the cellist. These men formed both the primary quartet, which performed in first class and second class, and the trio of string in the a la carte restaurant reception room. The 3 restaurant musicians were berthed separately from the others. It had been speculated that Mr. Crins and Mr. Bricot may have compromised part of the trio, but conflicting information makes it impossible to positively state which musicians were assigned to this group. Further complicating the matter is the fact that the string trio, such as this, usually comprised of a violin, a cello, and a viola. Since the viola is not listed as the primary instrument of any of the musicians, it can only be assumed that one of the string players may have doubled on this instrument. For Olympic and Titanic, and time and location of the quintet's performances was as follows. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. after the second class entrance foyer on C deck. 11 a.m. to 12 noon, the first class entrance hall in the boat deck. From 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., the first class reception room. From 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., after second class entrance foyer, C deck. 8 p.m. to 9:15 p.m. would be the first class reception room. And 9:15 p.m. to 10:15 p.m. be the after second class entrance foyer on C deck. While some of Titanic's first class passengers recall that the bands were usually good, passenger Helen Candy gave a more frank appraisal. Some said it was poor on its Wagner work. Others said the violin was weak. But that was for the conversationalist's sake, for nothing on board was more popular than the orchestra. You could see that by the way everyone refused to leave it, and everyone asked of it for some favorite hit. The music selection book. The cover of the music selection book is the type that would have been available on Titanic. These listed all the songs the musician could play upon request. Musicians playing on Olympic. The musicians play in the companionway outside the second-class library on C deck aboard the Olympic. In the early 1920s, the large angled pillar in the background is actually the base of the mainmast stepped out on C deck at the location. The uniforms seen here remained basically unchanged from 1912, as did the musician's instrument with the exception of the saxophone. Aboard ships, an unofficial collection of the band was generally made in the morning of the day of arrival. The hours of operation, while lights out, was generally at 11 p.m. when the dining saloons closed. In first class, however, the lounge and the reading and writing room remained open until 11:30 p.m. and the smoke room until midnight. In second class, the library and the smoke room also closed at 11:30 p.m. In third class, female passengers were ordered off the decks at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. by the masters at arms, and men and women were requested to turn in at 10:30 p.m. For the amusements, the athletic sports given the dignified name of Gymkhana were sometimes organized in the Atlantic Run. Games and sports of various types were arranged such as deck shuffleboard, cricket, deck coitus, bullboard, and tennis. Nets being rigged up for tennis and cricket to prevent the ball from going overboard. On Titanic, the old shipboard standard of shuffleboard was played on the raised deck over the first-class lounge, and in the second-class promenade area, and the raised roof over the first-class smoking room. In shuffleboard, players used a long wooden stick to shove India rubber discs onto squares marked with the highest numbers, while at the same time endeavoring to knock the opponent's discs off of the numbers. The hand chalk lines for this game can be seen on the wood deck in early photographs of the Olympic. Deck coitus were popular, and there were several ways of playing it. In one variation, passengers were to attempt to throw rope rings onto the pegs. Another was to toss them onto numbered squares chalked on the deck. A third method was to try and see which side could get the most coitus near the single chalk mark. Coitus gave a good deal of fun, as the rolling of the vessel and sometimes the wind had to be allowed. For a similar game, bullboard used a large flat canvas-covered board, usually raised about a foot at the far end. From a chalk mark a few yards off, the object of the game was to throw small leaden weights onto numbered squares, a bystander keeping account of the scores made by the respective players. Shuffleboard played on one of the Olympics' raised roofs on the boat deck in the early 1920s, before the World War, and white markings for the game were chalked on by deck stewards. But sometime later they would be painting it on permanently. Chess, drafts, dominoes, and other indoor games could be obtained on application to the library steward. The card games were always popular, but games of chance were not allowed on Sundays in any of the public rooms. The daily sweepstakes on the ship's run was about the one form of gambling in which nearly every passenger joined at some time or another during the voyage. The shilling sweep was customary, as even second-class passengers could afford the amount occasionally. The ship's sweep was not official, however, but one of the ship's responsible officials often supervised it. It was the only sweep that was recommended to be patronized, as either the whole of the money entered was divided in prizes or a known percentage was deducted for some charitable purpose. Sweeps promoted otherwise were to be regarded with suspicion, as they were generally profitable to the promoter. This applied more particularly to those organized the private on the last day privately of the North Atlantic voyage. Passengers were also requested to stay away from strangers enticing one to join one of the card games, as professional gamblers were known to book passage under assumed names, and passengers were also advised to entrust jewelry and money to the safekeeping of the purser's office while on board. This would rarely cause any inconvenience, as there were not many opportunities for spending large amounts of money aboard ship. The money one kept on hand for such incidental expenses as the daily sweepstakes on the ship's run, refreshments or visits to the bar, smoke room expenses, and the like did not need to be substantial. If one ran low, a visit to the inquiry office to replenish one's funds was all that would be required. Dark rooms are available for amateur photographers on some of the large Atlantic liners. Though Olympic and Titanic were intended to have these facilities and were even described in period engineering journals as having them, they were never fitted on board. Passengers sometimes made an impromptu darkroom in their cabins, if running water was available. Making clever use of the after A-deck awning rafter on Olympic, White Star fashioned a swing to be used by passengers. The same would be done with a crane, crutches on the poop deck. When Olympic's third-class passenger accommodations were changed to tourist third cabin in the 1920s, shuffleboard and swings appeared in this area as well.